We are now live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Daytripper Photo Show. Today is the photo review for the Photo Challenge Food, and it was an awesome week this week. Right now, we've just got myself and Michael here. Good day, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm excellent, thank you. You were just showing me some super cool tricks that you're going to be getting into in your composite class that we have coming up. Can't give anything away yet because it's going to be awesome, but how long did that take you? 3 minutes?
Yeah,
or so
about
that, and you blew my mind with just 3 minutes. So I'm stoked. I can't wait for that. By the way, that is going to be November the 6th, your composite course. We're only getting maybe 8 to 10 people who can come and take this course because it's a fairly small space. So if anybody's interested in learning how to do composites, this is the guy to learn from, and I was very impressed from just that. So thanks for that, by the way. Kind of impromptu little lesson you gave us there. Me, at least. Nobody else saw it. Good evening to you, Christine. Thanks for watching. Phil's going to be a little bit late today. He's got something he has to take care of before he comes onto the show. So hopefully he'll be able to join us shortly and get into the photo review with us. And just like I said, today is the photo review show. So we're going to be talking about everybody's pictures they posted for the photo challenge. Oh, there goes my phone. Yay. Food, which, as I say, we had a great week this week. And part of the reason for that was I had my food photography class with Navi Noom. And Navi, again, awesome. I love working with these people who are also talented. She gave a presentation at the Loft Studio on Sunday for food photography. It was from 2 to 5 p.m. I did a little Facebook Live from there. It was pretty cool. Some of the photos that we've had coming in from that are super impressive. Actually, 2 of the photos submitted for our photo challenge this week are from that session, which I was kind of hoping would happen, right? Because, you do this food challenge thing right before I'm doing a food photography class. And of course, you hope somebody's going to chime in and say, hey, look what I did at the class. And sure enough, we got some decent shots. You actually commented on Rachel's, I believe.
Yeah, I loved her photos that she posted. I looked at all the submissions that she did from actually that class, and I'm really regretting not going myself. The food looked good. The photos were amazing. I loved everything that she posted. So
it was awesome. The food was actually amazing. Those tarts, I didn't even get to eat it. I brought one home so that Shelly and her mom could split it, but there was strawberry on one of them, so her mom can't eat strawberry. Long story short, I didn't get any anyway, so pretty pissed about that. I had some sushi, and the sushi was awesome. I'm not a sushi guy. Are you a sushi guy?
I'm not.
No, I'm not really either.
They keep trying to get me into it. It's not working.
Well, this stuff was really good. It was very fresh. In fact, the sushi place on Main Street created sushi specifically for the photography. This isn't stuff they even had on their menu. And when I went and ordered the food, they were like, I explained what I was using it for. And the chef actually made all new sushi just for the sake of the photography. So it's pretty sweet, pretty cool. It's nice to know the people that you work around. Main Street Newmarket is awesome. There's so many great restaurants and cool people along that street. It's just really great to be a part of it. So this photo review for food, we're also talking about the Zeigarnik effect. And this is an idea that you brought up, and I was like, you got to do it. It's awesome. So kind of go into that a little bit for us before we start talking about any of that.
So the Zeigarnik effect, as we talked about earlier, is a psychological effect that they've brought into photos and videos, where it shows the moment just before something happens, and it's always a very impactful moment that's happening. That what we do is we see the moment before it, and our brain creates the rest of an image, which is really nice in photography because even though we're looking at a still image, which is one frame, we see the other 120 frames that come after it. We're watching that whole scene on play, and you get to do really interesting things with it. And really common examples that we showed earlier, or that I mentioned earlier, would be swinging a baseball bat just before hitting the ball, or they use it in horror movies all the time, where you can hold a needle near someone's eye, or you're about to step on a shard of glass or a nail. So it's a really interesting effect like that, and it's revolves all around actions and suspense.
Well, I think, I mean, the thought of that and rolling that into a photo challenge was such a cool idea that, of course, I automatically said, yes, we will do it. And I totally didn't think of how we would do it and how we would rate it and judge it and all that. So I apologize for all the confusion if anybody was confused. I think what we've narrowed it down to, now that all the photos are in, we're going to review all the photos, one from each person, of course. And ultimately, we're going to pick the top 3. And if one of those 3 had the Zeigarnik effect at play, that person will get an extra 2 points. What do you think?
Sure.
Make the rules up as we go. Right?
Yeah.
Speaking of points, we have our point leaders already. Currently, Glenn Wilcox is in first place with 6 points. Taylor has 4 points in second place. And Emile Constantine has 2 points. So, guys, keep on submitting photos. This is only the second week in this quarter, which means that you have several quarters or several weeks left to do. I think there's 2 more challenges after this one before the quarter's over. So you have plenty of opportunity to make excellent photos, submit them for our photo challenge, and get your reviews in, because the whole point is to get better, right? Maybe we have an idea that we've seen the photo and we think, how can we improve? There's lots of folks who post photos to the community who don't take part in the photo challenge. They post it to photography, they post it to other pages within the community. But if you post it into the weekly photo challenge page, you're going to hear what we have to think about it, which hopefully is a good thing. I'm going to zip over here to the Q&A, and just to remind everybody what the Q&A is. If you're watching right now and you want to contribute something, you want to give us your 2 cents, so to speak, or your nickel because of inflation. They don't make pennies anymore. What can you do? So if you want to let us know what you have to say, use the Q&A part of the Hangout. I hope this isn't going to change because, as of our next show, we're going to be over at Facebook Live. Google Hangouts isn't going to be happening anymore. They're canceling the whole thing. So we're going to migrate. We're going to head over to YouTube Live. Did I say Facebook Live? I hope not. They can't see you, Michael, just so you know. You have to speak. I know. I have to click on you. When there's only 2 of us, they don't show all 3 at the bottom of the window.
Oh.
Yeah, so until Phil gets here, they're only going to see whoever's window is being highlighted. So
okay.
Let you in
I
on
did not know this.
There you go. Sheila. Oh, good. Ivan, you are watching. Good. Ivan was messaging me asking if there's a show tonight. So I guess he's found his way into the Hangout. Jerry, hello to you. Sheila, of course, and Ivan. Thank you all for watching. Rachel's watching. Cool. We got quite a few viewers today. So, yeah, speak up, guys, if you have something to say to us, if you want to contribute to our opinions. And remember, Gabriel always was the one that would say this, but our opinions, how's that saying go? You don't even know. I don't even know. Basically, if our opinions are good for you, then that's great. And if they're bad for you, then that's great too. Or something.
Oh, if you agree with our opinions, you're correct. And if you disagree with our opinions, you're also correct.
See, I'm lost without Gabriel sometimes. I'm going to have a little tear because Gabe's not here right now.
I just saved you. I got no credit.
You did. You were awesome. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it, buddy. Okay, so we've talked about our top points earners so far. Plenty of opportunity for everybody else who's submitting photos to gain some points and to get your way to winning the awesome prizes. These prizes are things that we have from LensPen, from Cotton Carrier, the hip holster, and the hand straps are giving away for these quarterly photo challenges. We've got some stuff from Sennheiser, the lanyards, hopefully some T-shirts and things. And of course, you have the Daytripper Photo $350 gift certificate that you can use towards any session or any learning opportunity you'd like with Daytripper Photo. Mark, our first winner, is currently in a mentorship program with that $350. So excellent use of it. Use it toward a day trip, come to Algonquin Park, put it towards the island overnight session is open. If anybody's interested in this, by the way, guys, this is stars photography, hopefully Aurora Borealis if the weather is right for us, because it's going to be September 24th and 25th is like the perfect time to see the Aurora Borealis up in North Bay. It's on a private island. Saturday and Sunday we're going to be doing all kinds of cool walks and photo walks and so on. And then that evening is going to be freaking fantastic. So I can't wait for that session. And that's coming up pretty soon, September 24th and 25th. Now, I'm on vacation this week from Henry's. I've actually taken my vacation time, and I'm not going anywhere. It's honey-do list time. You know what I mean? Got to clear out the back 40. Got to paint the office. Got to paint the living room. Paint the hallway. Lots of other stuff. Probably a lot of more painting to go. But before all of the work, I got to enjoy a really great day on Friday with my lovely wife, Shelly. We went to the CNE and got this lovely sucker right here. The Daytripper photo. This is our classroom official hat. My name's on the back. I don't know if you can see it back there. There you go. This is a limited edition, folks. One of a kind. The problem with that, though, is once Shelly saw my awesome one-of-a-kind hat, guess what? Yeah, she wanted one, too. But you know what? She wanted a pink one. Pink one with sparkles.
Oh.
That's how she rolls. So we got a pink one. Right? And it has little sparkles because this is the cancer pink, right? So it had a little sparkle on there. And this one has Shelly's name on the back, spelled correctly, which is fantastic. So, yeah, we had a great time. The CNE is awesome. You hear they shut it down early yesterday because of fighting?
I did not hear this.
Humans.
Luckily, I went earlier than that.
Yeah, good. Were you there yesterday?
No, I was there a week or two ago.
Yeah, it was awesome. Great time at the CNE. Lots of good food. They're serving bugs now. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, in the food court they have bugs. They have like crickets and stuff on hot dogs, and like I guess it's kind of smart. I mean, think about it this way: they're just capitalizing on the negatives in the first place. I mean, they were shut down before for bugs or something, so embrace the negatives and cook them and feed them to people. It was funny because Shelly and I saw this. And we were like, no way, forget that. We got our other crazy food. And we sat as far away from the place as we could. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, some guy shows up and sits right beside us saying, "Ooh, I got the bugs." And he puts them right down beside us. And we're just like, really? Really? Like, literally just decided to get as far away from bugs as possible. And dude sits right beside us and proudly eats his bugs. Anyway.
He knew he was following.
That's right. It's like kids.
It's one of those interesting things you read. Apparently the amount of resources it takes to essentially farm bugs and have them as a food source for people is astronomically smaller than the amount of resources it takes and upkeep it takes to work with other forms of protein like different farm animals.
Well, that makes sense.
It is way healthier for you in way smaller doses, way easier, just in every possible way. It's actually technically better for us to consume insects. And in North America, we're one of the only groups of people in the world that don't.
That's because they creep and they crawl.
Yeah, but just it's really fascinating to know that like 80% of the global population, I think it was, eats bugs like it's nothing.
Well, let them continue.
It's so healthy for you, and we get one look at it and go, nope.
Well, let them eat all they want because that just means there's less for us.
Yep.
No, I just can't. Anyway,
if that's their approach to dealing with mosquitoes, get rid of them. Good. That's only in the insect species do you find any species that you actually wish would go extinct. Everything else can stay.
Yes.
Insects, beat it.
Yeah, mosquitoes really are just nasty little suckers. Get it? See what I did there? Okay. So that was fun. I do recommend anybody, if you get the opportunity, check out the CNE Canadian National Exhibition. It's amazing. I always watch the Food Network, and they always have those Carnival Eats shows. I hope they go to the CNE and go to some of those places because there's some pretty cool food. They had the food truck festival going on. We had lots of awesome food from the food truck. They had a beer festival, so I had beer, and I brought home my little beer glass. They give you a little 4-ounce glass, right? So anyway, awesome times. Check it out. And Christine, yes, I thought people would start saying that that's their kind of hat. I was a little worried about that, actually, because, a hat should be dark color, simple writing, not pink.
Where's mine?
Where's yours?
Where's mine? Don't I get a hat? Everyone gets free stuff. You get all your lens pen and Sigma
wasn't
stuff.
free.
I don't even get a hat.
It wasn't free.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll pitch for it. I want a hat.
Okay, all right, fine. We can talk about this. I have a contact now. So he was really cool. He's a photographer, the guy that made the hat. He shoots Nikon. He has a D810. I could barely understand a word he said.
Oh, so he's a good photographer.
Because he shoots Nikon.
Yeah.
He shoots with the Chinese Photography Club in Toronto, and he was showing me all these pictures of all the different Chinese people in his club. He's a very nice man. Very, very nice man. And I'll be talking to him. If anybody wants hats, let me know. We'll talk. Anywho, let's get to the show. If you don't already belong, please check out the community on Google+. This will continue, whether the show is running through Google Hangouts or not. It has no relevance to what happens in Google+. So please check out the community. It's a lot of fun. We have over 460 folks in there right now, and everybody has a great time in the community. There's been so many posts. There's been so many replies. I really appreciate everybody contributing. I don't reply to every photo posted for the photo challenges because I feel that's incorrect for me to do because it might sound biased. I don't know. You should, because you have a good opinion. But for my replies, it'll be like, yeah, man, you're awesome. I love the photo. But then we get on the show, we do a review. I'm like, man, you should have done this or you should have done that. So I prefer just a piece and just give it a +1. Christine says a hat should be a statement. It's an accessory. Bling, right?
Yeah.
Bling. Shelly's got the bling. She is Little Miss Bling. I love it. She would eat sparkles. Okay, so yeah, another thing. If you are watching the show and you're checking it out on YouTube, please click like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or even share it. You know what would be really cool? If you found our YouTube page, which is basically my name, Brian Weiss. That's where everything is. Mr. Snaps, always there. If you find our YouTube page, share it. Post it to Facebook and see what happens. I think some people might get a kick out of it. And also, don't forget, if you're watching us live, remember, like I said, join the Q&A. Be a part of this. So many people are already talking to us. Michelle says, whether it's running through Google Hangouts or not, say what now? Okay, yes. So here's the deal. The Daytripper show is over, folks. No, I'm just joking. Yes. That's going to get me hate mail. No, what's happening is Google Hangouts is separating. It's basically, you know how Google's been fracturing itself, splitting up all its services. They're basically canceling Google Hangouts, but rolling it all over to YouTube Live, which is the same basic platform and apparently works very much the same way, although I couldn't get it to work yet. So we may have technical difficulties on the next show, but we've had them before. We'll get through it. So yeah, we can still do the Q&A part of it. All of the other features are there. There's some improved features. For example, they're making the upload or the speed faster for people to reply in a timely manner, which means we can get back and maybe do the Jeopardy game so people can answer questions in a very quick pace, where last time we had a real lag and that really sucked. So the Jeopardy game bombed. So
That'd
we
be a
can
lot
try.
of fun.
Oh, it was awesome. Navi built it. It was so cool. It had a whole board with the music and everything. So hopefully that'll be better. And also, you don't need to sign in anymore to watch the show with your Gmail account. So we can be able to share this out to the world, and nobody will have to have a Gmail account to watch, which is a benefit, I think. So hopefully it'll work well. Time will tell. And last but not least, I do want to really thank our sponsors for helping us out. I mentioned a bunch of them earlier because we're giving away their prizes for the quarterly prize awards show. What's that? The finals show? The quarterfinals, that's it. Sennheiser, Lenspen, Cotton Carrier, and of course Sigma lenses. They help us out so much. We had the Sigma glass for the food photography session. Now, here's the thing. Some people have said that we have these Sigma lenses on day trips to sell lenses because, you know, I work at Henry's, so that is a valid side effect. There's no doubt about that. But really, this is just opening up a whole different world to people that they hadn't had before. Use a fisheye lens, use a macro lens, use a whatever you want. Use an 18 to 35 f1.8, use a 20 to 35 f2. They have all these amazing lenses for us to use, which just adds to the experience, gives you more enjoyment from the whole thing. You get to come home with photos you might not have made otherwise. But you know what? At the same time, if you want to just use the lenses and the gear you own, perfect. There's actually a lot of people who still do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And anytime you can come out and learn something fun with the gear you're going to use day in and day out, that's a positive thing. So thank you to all of our sponsors for that. And let's start to get into the discussion. What say you?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. Do you want to do a screen share or you want me to?
I guess I can do it this time.
Lovely. So while you're pulling that up, I just want to remind everybody the current point leaders are Glenn Wilcox Taylor and Emile Constantine. As a reminder, guys, Emile was one of the students in the McMichael Art Gallery summer camp that I ran, which was a 2-day summer camp for photography. 15, 16-year-old, awesome kid, and one of the many really great kids that were in that program. So hopefully I'll get a phone call for that again. That was a lot of fun. All right, so you've got the shots up there, don't you?
Yep. So I think our first submission here was
Jerry.
Tomatoes.
So when I first saw this photo come up, I got so excited. I thought it was the coolest thing. What an idea. I mean, tomato, creamy. The tomato on the far left has been creamed by a hammer, right? Genius. And the faces he drew on there, and their sad little expression, and the happy dude up on top. I thought it was classic. I love the sharpness. I love the detail. But then I started looking more into it, and I looked at it full screen. And you made a point to me. Actually, why don't you give me your point that you made about this one first?
Well, I was going to say, to tie in with the comments on the faces, I really love the guy in the middle. The way that he's looking up, the angle, it actually looks like he's jealous of the other guy who's saying, "I'm king of the castle."
It's almost like Walking Dead, where they were all lined up in front of and they were getting hit in the back of the head, and like you could just tell the one who was just about to be hit was like, "What's gonna happen?" And you've kind of had that expression on that guy.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
It looks sad and jealous at the same time, and I'm loving that facial expression. What got to me, what really, no matter what size you're looking at this photo, the first thing that screams to me is this is a really, really vibrant green against red. And this is complementary colors. It's really heavy contrast. And I think the contrast in this case is more dominant than a lot of the photo. So at first glance, all I see is green. And you can see the saturation of it. The green right behind the hammer is actually brighter and more vibrant than the tomatoes.
Right.
It's competing with the can, but even the red on the can doesn't look as vibrant as this green.
And that's something we always talk about, that's where your eye is going to be drawn to, the brightest, most vivid, contrasty part of the screen.
So there's just this little bit of a fight going on in this picture that your eye is being drawn. There's so much happening in this photo. There's so much to look at, so many focal points to appreciate, but my eye is being drawn to the empty space rather than the actual focal points.
So it looks like this was shot in a photo box, a macro photo box, and they have the different colored backgrounds, the blue, the white, and the green, and so on. It controls the light. It gives you decent light, but you can see the texture in the background, and you can see the wrinkles in the left side, and you can see it's kind of bunched up along the bottom right side. To me, maybe changing the background to an actual setting, like a kitchen top, something like that, would have been that extra 10%.
Yeah, this would have been... It would be hard to create a story like this and then find an appropriate setting, which makes it easy to appreciate being done on a blank background like this. But what's good to keep in mind is when you're trying to find a setting for a sort of a macro story like this, keep it relevant, but it doesn't have to be a very important element. So no matter what the state of the kitchen is, if it's not bright, if it's not very vibrant, if it doesn't take a lot of our attention, it still makes sense for the shot, so we can work with it that way.
Right. Good point.
So,
and Jerry says, yes, it was taken in a photo box.
Yeah. So if you had the option of a black or white background, it really would have been helpful. The kitchen counter or a tabletop would have made sense for this, because pretty much you can have almost any background for this, because the attention isn't on the background, it's on
the story.
the tomatoes in the can and what's happening in the story. Maybe shooting it in a bathroom might not have made as much sense, but pretty much anything else you can get away with.
Yeah, the only shooting you want to do in the bathroom is like naked photography, which kind of leads to what we're going to be talking about later. You have to stay tuned for that one, folks. Yeah, I just baited you. Did you see that? Anyway, would you call this any Zeigarnik effect in this photo?
No, because this is after the effect has taken place.
Okay.
That tomato's already dead.
That tomato's been creamed.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at the next one. Thank you, Jerry, for submitting it. Beautiful. I talked to you in the store. I thought it was hilarious. Great shot.
So I think our next one here is from Robert.
Yes.
And we have the orange, and he's submitted this as both a food photo and a Zeigarnik photo.
Okay, so what do you think about the Zeigarnik in this shot? Because you did mention to me something about this.
Yeah, I'm hesitant about the Zeigarnik in this shot because I do see a knife. I see the intention of what story you're trying to tell with this photo. What I get out of this, though, is it doesn't read as much as a Zeigarnik. I see the edge of the knife. I don't see motion. I don't see the actual hand holding the knife, aiming that direction. It's very static for me right now. The knife is static. The whole scene is static.
See, it's interesting you say that because the first thing I thought when I saw the knife is it almost looks like the knife is drooling with anticipation of cutting through the orange. It's got that little bit of liquid at the bottom. It's almost like it's salivating at the thought of cutting through the orange, you know?
Yeah.
I get your point, though. There's no motion, and I think that would have been, again, the extra 10%.
So that's really all it is for me. It's a great idea. It's a great shot. But where there is no motion, the fact that this is a very static image, the whole point of the Zeigarnik is creating that suspense and showing that intent for the next moment to happen. What I get out of this is I have the story, I have the intent of the photographer. I don't have the intent of the action. This doesn't look like the impending doom of the orange. It looks like a really nice knife over an orange.
Cool.
So there's a little bit of a lack of energy to this that would make it more of a Zeigarnik. So it's a great idea. I think it's just that maybe a little bit of motion or showing more of the hand.
Right.
And having that painting the whole picture might have been better.
Do you think their focus is a little more toward the front than it should be?
I was wondering about that, and I think you might actually be right.
If you look at the counter underneath, where the focus ends is right at the front of the orange.
Yeah, which is kind of confusing me a little bit because the knife looks sharp. At least the top of the knife. I don't know what's going on here, if the knife is in front of the orange a little bit or if it just looks really good and it is front focus. I don't know what happened there.
Now, the only reason I bring it up is Robert is one of my partners in the Loft Studio. And, you know, we try and help each other out and we try and give each other these little pointers where we need it. So focus is a problem that I am having huge. With my little Nifty 50 and my D7100, I find that my focus is just all over the place these days. So I'm trying to hone in on it myself. So that's why I thought I'd get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I just got a new 85. Actually, I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I bought one used, and it's killing me trying to adjust to that lens. I'm having trouble with the focus as well. And I find the autofocus fine-tuning in the Nikon cameras, I'm not really a huge fan. It doesn't look like it's doing anything for me. So I've set it to the extreme setting for pushing it back because I feel like I'm front focusing. Or no, I'm back focusing with that camera. So I've got it pulling. And I think it's a little better, but
it's really hard to tell. You got to use that focus calibrator checker thing.
Yeah, and I don't have one, so
we'll do a show on that. I think that would be a fun thing to do. Otherwise, the colors look natural. I'm really impressed with his lack of oversaturating the thing, and he didn't use the selective color, which I think is so easy to fall into that trap when you're taking a picture of an orange, just to selective color the crap out of it. But he
Yeah.
didn't do that. So kudos for that, Robert.
That absolutely wouldn't have helped the photo at all. So I'm glad
No.
he didn't do that either. But
No.
yeah, I have to say I agree. I love that this has a really nice pop to it, but it's definitely not overdone.
Yeah, cool. All right, thanks, Robert, for submitting. Awesome idea. Maybe with the tips that Michael gave, you could try again and see if you can get that intent of motion going on. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so what do we have next?
Our next one is Christine.
All right. Now, okay, so we had a bit of a conversation about this. You and I did, Michael.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated your opinion because my first thought is I want to drink it. As Navi Noom always says, lick your screen, lick your phone. That's her hashtag. When I first saw this, and I think everybody who sees this would say, yeah, that's a Caesar, that's me. I need that right now. And it looks so good. The focus is exactly where it should be. Right at the rim up there, you can see all the little salt. The color is nice and vibrant. But that vignette that's added, it's inconsistent with where the celery is. It's like it's been erased from around parts of the celery. And you made the point that, that's a minor tweak that can be worked with. And then it's all of a sudden magazine quality photo. And it really should be.
This is one of my favorite shots. I absolutely love the idea. I love the composition. The decoration of this, where you're placing everything in the shot, is golden. And one of my favorite things that I pointed out earlier is the diagonal that you've implied with the green, where the celery and the olive and the lime all line up in the photo, creates its own diagonal through the shot. It's countered by the diagonal of the toothpick. It's a really great, really subtle design element that I think works wonders on the shot. The fact that you have all three of those objects in the shot, if you were to place them any other way, had a really strong chance of just looking weird and looking argumentative. To have such a harsh contrast of red and green and making them work together was really, really nicely done. That's the only thing that I could say needs work on this shot is the fact that the shadows and the vignetting was a little bit too dark. I find the bottom left corner here distracting, that we've lost so much detail. I like this texture in the background. I love this feeling. It looks like you've got window light coming in. I've got that little bit of a blue tint. I'm loving everything across this shot. The contrast feels too dark here. And I'm actually losing it a little bit in the shadows here, where the actual focal point should be the glass. Oh, that's weird. It's coming in. I have my little extra thumbnail pops up, and it is less saturated in that for some reason.
Huh.
But where the drink itself should be the focal point, it's not as vibrant. It's only vibrant up in that top right corner along with the tomato. And it's losing a bit of the attention. It's actually competing with the celery a little bit. But the shot overall turned out great. And this actually reminds me of something. I want to pull this guy up really quickly and show you a photographer called Rob Grimm.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm just going to read Christine's comment. She says, I'm totally with you on the dark corner. That bugged me to no end.
Yeah.
So now that must have been, was that just the lighting falling off like that? It was not enough light in that corner. To me, it looked like that was added in editing. So
I want to show you guys Rob Grimm. He's a beverage and food photographer, and he's nicknamed in the industry as the Shakespeare of beer. But one of the effects that he's really known for is the hero shot. There's a way to get a hero shot in a portrait, but he does that with food and with bottles. And like you see it with the Budweiser King of Beers. He's looking up at the bottle. He's lit it in a certain way. He's shot it at a certain angle that it looks powerful. It looks important. The burger looks important.
That's actually one of the things that Navi stressed during her session was the hero shot.
Yeah. So the hero shot is a huge, huge, huge deal. And it's really nice to use it with portraits, but it's really influential in any sort of product photography, food photography, beverages. They all really, really make use of it, and you get amazing shots when you do that, and it works. What I love about this photo, most hero shots are on a lower angle looking up at it. But because you shot with such a shallow depth of field here, even though you're looking down at the glass, that shallow depth of field really separates it from the base where it's standing, and it looks taller.
Mm-hmm.
So this actually looks to me like a hero shot, and I think that was a really nice element of it that just makes this work as a final image.
Great observation for sure. And excellent photo. Very, very well done, Christine. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, let's move along. Let's check out the next shot.
All right, next up we have, oh, what am I doing here?
Is there Ivan there?
Weekly photo challenge. Next shot, I see, let's do Ivan's.
Nice. Oh, so you're using the new Google Plus, eh? I'm
Am I?
The old Google Plus interface.
I'm still too new to Google Plus to even know any better at this rate.
Oh, it looks fine. It's just when I saw the way that it went to a bigger screen like that, I was like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we've only got so we've got these two from Ivan. Did we end up picking which one? Which one are we doing?
I thought we would go with this one.
This one?
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear your thoughts on it.
Sure. So as far as this shot goes, I mean, it's kind of funny that you just talked about the hero shot, because really the hero here is the ripeness and juiciness of the tomato, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're really hoping for. Now, I love shooting at farmers markets or things like this, but it really does look like a shot from the hip photo of the tomatoes where you're not getting that hero shot. So my thought for this would be get closer, move in a little bit. Don't be afraid. And this is something that, since we have the studio on Main Street and we do a lot of photo walks along Main Street, we do it during times where there's an actual farmers market going on right down there at Kennedy Commons. And it's an incredible experience walking around a farmers market and shooting, because you get to talk to people. You get to, talk to the farmers and say, hey, you mind if I take some pictures? And they had no problem with that. Then you get to talking about things, and one thing leads to another, and you get closer, and then you can get a more intimate shot of whatever you're shooting. You can really build up your photo just by having conversation with the people that run the booth. That would be my suggestion, is maybe get in closer. Remember, you're trying to tell the story. You're not just trying to take a picture of tomatoes on a table. Mm-hmm. That was my thought. The light looks great that day. I mean, the nice sheen on the top of the tomato. The reds are nice and rich. I give you lots of credit for your exposure. But, seeing the stuff in the background, it reminds me of what I always say, cruise the borders. If you look in the back, you can see the pallets, the green pallets on the back right. There's a pop can. These are things that if you move in close, they're not in the shot anymore. So that would be my thought. What do you think?
I have to agree, moving in closer was probably a good idea to try for this. I'm tempted to say, actually, with a photo like this, really watch for these patterns, the repetition, even the baskets on the side. If you were to shoot along the edge of these and get the repetition and pattern of the baskets, if you were to shoot over top, just over top, looking across, get a landscape of tomatoes, and that would, again, with the idea of telling a story, shoot a landscape just skimming over the top of it to show the vast amount of tomatoes that are there. There's a lot of ways that you can approach it. Even if you were to get a close-up and have this sort of abstract macro shot of it, where you're just seeing the edges of all of them and have to maybe guess what it is you're looking at. There's a lot of things you could try, but I have to agree that the background here is a little bit distracting, and I don't feel connected to this photo. It doesn't have a story. It's a great idea, like you were saying, a great exposure. It's not over processed, but it's not telling a story. It doesn't say anything.
Right.
So I think play with your angles, try to explore, shoot different sides of it, get closer, farther away, and say something with the photo is I think would help with this.
I think the next photo challenge we give is really going to give Ivan a challenge, a fun challenge. What we were talking about, the new one.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be right up Ivan's alley with the next photo challenge. So I'm really anxious to see how he takes the criticism or the critique we gave and rolls that into the next challenge. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm actually curious to try that challenge myself. Just gives me some good exercise. We've
done it twice before, and the first one is our most viewed episode of all time. So that's got to tell you something.
Find that. I'm going to go digging and find that.
Well, it's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. All right. So
where are we now?
Our next, I think we've got quite a few submitted by Rachel.
Yeah, for Rachel's, I think we're going to use the one that you're hovering over there. Yeah.
So should we talk about that one now?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
That was my way of sounding like Starsky and Hutch. Okay.
You got a lot of notes on this, so I'll let you take this one too.
Well, first of all, this is one of those photos from our food photography class that we ran at the studio. That whole thing that Nabi talks about, hashtag lick your phone, I just want to eat the berries out of this thing. It looks so good. The light on it is nice and bright. The background texture, the colors, the blues in the background really blend well with the blueberries, but the reds just pop out of there. Your contrast is great. My only thought on this, my only potential for improvement would be it is shot at f4 with a 24-70 lens at 70 millimeters, right? Mm. So depth of field is very shallow when you're zoomed in with a zoom lens. And at f4, where the lens is a maximum 2.8, it's not quite closed and it's not really wide open. It's just that point where you're getting really good focus at the very top on the blueberries, which is where you want it, but you're not really getting the strawberries, that detail that you get from the strawberries, the pits and all that little detail you should see. You're not really feeling that popping out of the shot. And I think shooting maybe a stop or two lower or smaller aperture would have made a little bit more difference as far as having more of the shot in focus. Other than that, I just think it's just beautiful. It's delicious looking, and I want to eat it.
Yeah. I'd have to comment with if you're planning on shooting something shallow depth of field and having elements of it out of focus, especially having foreground elements out of focus, when you have a shallow image, you want the out of focus areas to either be out of focus because they're not important or be important to the shot because they're out of focus. There's a lot of photos, especially portraits, when you're out in the gardens or the park and you've got these beautiful textures behind you, but the textures are too busy. Whereas when you knock them out of focus, you just have this beautiful painter's palette of background behind the subject, and it actually brings the attention and sharpness back into the center.
Right.
That you want that out of focus. It looks good out of focus. It's on purpose. When you have a shallow macro shot like this, you're really fighting focus, and you have to be very careful of which elements you want in and out if you're only able to have one or the other. I think what really gets me with this is exactly that, having the strawberry out of focus. It doesn't become important because it's out of focus, and it's not out of focus because it's not important. It's actually, it has all of that texture that you can add to the shot with it, and it's just out of the way. I'm not completely losing it. I can see that the seeds are there. I can see all of that texture huge in the screen. It's a big element of the photo for the amount of real estate that it takes up, that it's just out of the way and I can't see what it is. So I think it gets pretty distracting at that point. It's where you chose to focus is a great idea. Like you were saying with the blueberries, it looks fantastic, but I think that extra 10% with this would have been possibly letting it be a slightly longer shutter speed and really get a little more depth of field and just get the strawberry into that shot.
Yep, that's a great idea. Now, I know, I think at least this is one where Rachel was hand-holding, so shutter speed was probably a primary concern.
Oh, yeah.
But realistically, as we were talking about in the food session, once you get an angle you like, you can always plop your camera on a tripod in that position and then try some, a couple different shots of that specific thing at different depths of fields just to maximize your chance of going home with something that's perfect. Otherwise, awesome, tasty, want it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, on the topic of the Zeigarnik effect, where it doesn't count if you're in the middle of doing something, is the moment just before. You're in the middle of poking your fork into this, and the glaze on this, and seeing that curve where each prong on the fork is reaching into it and the glaze is shifting around it, that spot in the photo right there,
that's so powerful.
It's so exciting to look at. And I don't know what it is. Of all the things to look at in this tart, that spot makes me want to eat it the most, because I'm just seeing that interaction with the glaze. And it's
one of the challenges we gave was motion. And this is showing that motion where the fork is in there. It's a subtle thing. It's not like motion blur. It's just the imprint of the fork in the tart definitely shows that there's pushing going on. So very good point. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. And it goes to show subtleties are huge in photography, in all art.
Absolutely. Rachel says, will improve. Thank you for the constructive criticism. I don't think it's a matter of improving, because this is a great shot. I think it's a matter of trying something different and potentially just expanding that depth of field a little bit more to wrap around the strawberry, not just the blueberry.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to have photos like this either way, where you really get a taste of everything that's amazing about it that you'd want to recreate, and everything that you can adjust and do better next time, so that you actually you can see how that impacts the image. You see the amount of real estate that strawberry takes up and how it's affecting everything else, and how having it in focus would have changed that feeling of the photo.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good no matter what to have a photo like this, so you really see just how much impact can change depending on where your attention lies.
Absolutely. All right, Rachel, thank you so much. I know you have a great passion for food photography. You're enjoying it a lot. And I still want to connect with you and your brother in the Henkel, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for stuff. So anyway, we'll talk about that another time. I'm just getting a message from Phil. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to make it on the show tonight. He's really running behind with what he's doing. He did look at people's photos. He wanted us to tell you that he loved their photo. He loved your photos. He says, "Tell everybody I love their pictures." So, well, I just told them, Phil. I just told them. Okay, let's move along to the next one.
I think we're up next is Charlene.
Absolutely. Okay, what's this Christine says? All of this teasing Brian is doing about the next challenge is making my head spin. I think I know what it is, and I'm excited. Haha. Okay, good. Yeah, it's going to be a good one for sure. Okay, sorry. Charlene Marshman submitted corn. I want to talk about this one quickly. I love the bright color. I love the tone of it. And it looks like, I know this was taken with a 100 millimeter L series Canon macro lens. And macro lenses are awesome because the depth of field is so shallow. They're so flat from edge to edge. You could really do a lot. And we were just talking about using depth of field for helping pull focus a little bit. And this is exactly where I think it works better the other way, where it is shallow depth of field. You're not getting focus really close to the viewer and really far away. It's really focusing that focus on the nibs and the little bits, and they're almost perfectly in the thirds as well. So visually, I think it works really well. I'm just not quite sure about, like, this is close, but there's just something off. Maybe your analysis of the shot can key me into what I'm finding is just a bit off.
I honestly don't know how much to contribute to that thought, because I have it too, and I'm wondering if it's your eye wants to go to the yellow. You know you're looking at corn.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's corn. And when you get a macro shot of corn like this, you see the smoothness of the texture, but your focus and your focal point in this photo is the green bit on the end, and I think it's almost strange to see this much texture isolated in one spot over such a generally smooth surface. And I feel like I'm looking at the black sheep in the photo.
Just the tip with a little bit of stuff coming out. Is that what you mean? Wait a second.
I can't be the only one that heard that.
Let's just stop, rewind. Let's start that again. This is a show for all ages. Be good, Michael. All of our viewers are gonna freak out right now. Anyway, yes, the front of the corn that has the little
strings.
I
don't even know what that's called.
Hang on a second, Shelly. Michelle, what's that stuff that's all around a piece of corn? What? The stuff that's all around corn when you're husking corn. The husk. Thank you. Thank you, Shelly. You're awesome. This is how I get things done around here. The husk of the corn coming out the front of it is what is a little bit off-putting. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I think the other thing to it is when you're shooting just to the side of a subject like this, especially a long subject.
Husk and silk.
Oh, silk.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, Shelly, thanks. Here's your hat, by the way.
Why's my hat in here?
I talked about it. You got compliments. It's okay.
I picked it. That's why.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Michael. Go ahead.
So, looking at the corn on this angle, it looks like it's really highlighting the length of it, that you're looking across this surface. But the angle that it's actually framed at, we don't get to see much of that depth. So one of the things that I can't say for sure if that's what's getting to us with this shot. There's something that neither of us are finding.
If Phil was here,
I could say in general. I could say in general, when you're going for a shot like this, especially shooting a macro and having just that couple millimeters in focus on a long surface, you want to use that depth or lack thereof as part of the design, as part of the composition. So I'm tempted to say that exactly how you framed it now, if you were to move just a touch to the right and aim just a touch more to the left, so that more of the shot was actually focusing on the length of the corn cobs, maybe that would have been the extra 10% for you, where you get to appreciate you create essentially a landscape photo in miniature, and this could have been a great landscape. And I think if you were to push just a little bit to the left and see more of the length of these corn cobs, then maybe that was the feeling that you could have gotten out of it, was having this landscape. And I don't know, just it could be personal taste, but I think that's what this photo could have used.
Well, it's still a great shot. Whoa, sorry. Still a great shot. Lots going on, and if nothing else, thank you so much for submitting. I think it's, the bright color is something that's great to look at. I love using the macro lenses. They're not easy to work with, so I think keep at it. Keep on trying different angles and different positions. I always say take 3 shots for every one you intend. One to the left, one to the right, and one where you think is right. And something within that will speak to you differently. So awesome stuff.
And I have to throw in again, on the exposure and the processing of this, really hard thing to avoid with the bright subject and the hard yellows. You did not go over the top with the editing.
Right.
So kudos for that as well.
For sure. All right. I think we have one more photo to get through and to look at.
Yeah. I think our next one here is Michelle Scott.
So Michelle was at the food session. In fact, Michelle was the real motivator for the food session. She's asked us for months and months and months if we're going to be doing a food session with Navi. And thank you so much for coming and for suggesting we do it and for sticking on our case until we actually got it done. It was a great session, and I hope that we will do it again. The sushi for me was a hit. I think it was such a an interesting feel. It's a different vibe that we have. I mean, we can shoot fruit, we can shoot bowls of fruit, we can shoot all kinds of different types of food, pastries, tarts, and so on. But the sushi just gives a classic edge to the entire experience. And I love her placement. Ask or harass, she said. No, you never harassed. You asked and you pushed and prodded, and it was important that you did because it came out pretty good. Michelle always thinks she's a harassment. She's awesome. Michelle is super cool. So anywho, my thought on the actual photo, first of all, it is kind of small on your screen that you're looking at. So I do encourage people to look at this on their own computers. They're all available to look at through the Daytripper photo community under Weekly Photo Challenge.
I can zoom in.
Ooh, look at that. Cool.
Yeah, I think this is the one that she submitted is a little bit low res, I can see here.
Okay.
But yeah,
well, here we have focus where we want it. The forks, what am I talking about? The chopsticks. I believe Navi was in control of the chopstick action in this case. Everything placement-wise, I think is great. The plate, the choice of plate, what the sushis are on, with the neutral background. There's nothing distracting going on other than what's going on the plate. I'm a little bit torn on having the mark of where the sushi was on the plate there or not. I mean, should that have been cleaned away? I'm not sure. I'm not the food photographer by trade. Or is it showing that it was picked up off of the plate and that's what was left? You know what I mean? Like, this is something that is a purposeful decision that could have been made. I don't know if it should be there or not. I don't really care. Personally, I think it's fine. But what does kind of get me a little bit, and this is the question I was dying to ask as soon as I saw it, is were highlights brought down in this photo? Was it too bright and it had to be brought down by highlights? Because it looks almost a bit flat. The white of the rice isn't really popping to me. Does that make sense to you, Michael?
It does. The whole image looks faded, and I can see that the highlights were brought down. A really, really important thing to keep in mind when you're working with highlights is, and especially compared to working with shadows, when you lose highlights in a digital image, they're gone. When a photo is burnt out on the highlight end, there is no information anymore. It's just white. And you can see that in a photograph. And I can see that to a tiny extent right here in this one.
Mm-hmm.
The highlights are brought down, but I don't see anything else here. Now, an important thing to consider is our eyes can see where the highlights are. Our eyes can see a blown out highlight and understand a blown out highlight. Where you can tone down the highlights to be a little more comfortable for the shot. Like, it works great over here. This would have probably been a little too distracting on the plate if that was much brighter. In some ways, you can bring down the highlights and it's great. In other ways, there's a lot of situations where there is a threshold that you have to keep in mind that Photoshop or whatever you're editing on is not going to warn you about. And it's coming down beyond that section. So all I could say is, in general, when you're shooting, try to avoid blown out highlights. But when you're editing, if you have a blown out highlight, leave it. Because when we have this solid white area and it gets taken down past that threshold, all we can see right off the bat is that it's a solid white area that was taken down. We can tell that it was manipulated. And with all photos, no matter what you're doing, if you can't tell if it was edited right.
That's right.
So it's a very distracting element of this photo, was just that you came a little bit past that threshold. And I see why it was taken down that extent, but I would say that it didn't need to be taken down quite that far.
So in shooting, what could you have done to prevent the highlight?
That is probably really, really tricky to say.
Because you don't want to shut the aperture down too much, because then you'll start to play with depth of field. Maybe tone the power of the flash down, the power of the light. If this is sunlight, then maybe put a scrim between the sun and what you're shooting.
Yeah,
Just
you can
diffuse
soften
that light a little bit, make it softer.
if you're shooting in a situation where there's a lot of contrast or there's a certain transition of light to shadow like you have, especially really, really nice transition across the textures in the red here. If you want to soften the highlights while keeping this transition consistent or keeping the level of contrast from A to B consistent, I would say darken the shutter speed or choose any element of darkening that you can do in camera that doesn't impact the photo in a negative way. Like I see you're really working with the shallow depth of field here, so I wouldn't touch aperture at all in this case. Darken the shutter speed and then introduce some sort of reflective fill on this side of the subject, on the camera side of the subject, to make up for the lost exposure on the shadow side.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll keep it more or less consistent for that contrast, that level of contrast, without totally losing any details in shadows, which I think could have been a huge concern in this case, because even where we can see that this highlight was blown out here, we see almost nothing on the side of the plate.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell that you shot too bright and toned it down. I can also see in the photo that if you did go any darker with your actual exposure, there were plenty of areas that would have been hurt for doing that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Everything about your approach was great. It's just that final execution with the editing was really the only thing.
Before we go any further, Michelle says she's confused because she's looked at the image in Lightroom and Photoshop file and she didn't touch the highlight at all.
Oh.
So I'm confused too. And the show's over.
I'm not sure what to, I'm not sure what to say to that.
So we are wrong, apparently.
I would ask Michelle, is what we're seeing here with this faded look to it what she sees on her computer, or is there something weird about how this was exported or maybe how it was submitted that we are getting a different image on our end?
Yeah, that is a big problem.
I'm also concerned about the low resolution of this file, that maybe somewhere in the middle something got cut off here. I'd be very suspicious if that's how this looks on her side.
We're both seeing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe something else is at work here. And that whole rant was for nothing then.
But they were all good tips still for people if they do suffer from highlight problems, at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, sorry, Michelle. We totally failed you on your critique. But lots of good shots. And I want to see... Okay, wait a second. Brian, I will book a hangout later and we can go over it so we can move on. Okay, sounds good. That's a great idea, Michelle. The beauty of hangouts, right? We can get together at another time and go over all these things and make it whatever. So great. Good thinking, Michelle. Thank you. And Ivan asks, he says the second photo he submitted was for the Zeigarnik. Perhaps it didn't qualify. Maybe we can go back and have a quick look at Ivan's second photo.
Yes, the other photo here was for Zeigarnik.
So does this apply for Zeigarnik?
I would have to argue that, again, where I see the direction that you wanted to take this for Zeigarnik, I don't think this photo would count. Because on the one hand, I see that what you're trying to convey with this, I believe, is the fact that she's about to pay. She's got the money in hand. I think my issue with this is, one, the camera angle is really not helping that fact very much. The money in hand is such a minor element to the shot. It has pretty much no real estate in the photo to be a focal point in itself.
So maybe if it was, again, get close, crop it to the elbow and to the food on the counter and to the person taking the money in the background, like really in close, where really the bottom lower left third would be with where the money is, and the top left third, or the top right third, sorry, would be where the person taking the money would be. That tight, that might qualify for that.
That could help. Another thing to consider, though, is when you're doing something like a Zeigarnik photo, you want to be photographing a situation that is milliseconds away rather than seconds away.
Yes.
This photo looks, because of what the other
thing.
person is doing, it looks like they have no idea that the other person is paying yet. They're talking or they're doing something else with their hands. They have both hands full. They're not ready for this interaction to happen, so it doesn't have that immediacy that a Zeigarnik would have for the feeling of it. So if this was her holding the money out and the other person holding their hand out to take it, and the money was just about to drop into their hand, if you got the process of the money dropping into the hand, that I would absolutely call a Zeigarnik. But the fact that there's no connection between the two subjects in this particular shot, that there's no acknowledgement of the money being passed, and it's not milliseconds away, I think that's where we lose you on this, that it's not a Zeigarnik.
Very cool. All right, well, that's all the shots. And Ivan says, this is a whole learning curve for me. Appreciate the comments. I love that, Ivan, and thank you for contributing. You don't learn unless you try, and you are trying, and you're taking the comments that we give as constructive criticism, and we appreciate that. So keep up the good work, bud. You're doing really, really well. All right, so let's get into our picks for the top 3-point earners of the day. What do you think?
Let's do it. I have to sneak a quick comment over to you in chat.
Okay. And in the meantime, and in between time, I just want to thank everybody for contributing to this photo challenge. It was a lot of fun, food photography. The next photo challenge that we issue is going to be, as I say, different and fun. Okay, that's fine, Michael. So 3? Yes?
Let's do 3.
3. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the next photo challenge we're going to issue as soon as we announce the winners. So, Michael, if you would please be so kind as to bring your photos back up. We're going to go through here and give the top 3 photos. Oh, geez, I closed that window. Hang on a second.
Okay, I'm back here.
Here we go. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start off with 3rd place.
And our 3rd place winner is Michelle Scott.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Michelle, you've got 3rd place. And Michael, we just made that change. Explain.
I was spending more time looking at this photo and thinking about it, and I have to appreciate the execution, the composition, the story. This says something to me looking at this photo. It tells a story. The food looks great. The lighting looks great. I have no idea what's going on with this editing right now, because you say that that's not actually what happened on your end. So I'm curious to see what your side of this looks like. But in every other aspect, this is a killer photo, and it looks great. It's a great food shot, and that's exactly what we would want for this. I want to eat this.
Absolutely.
I don't even like sushi.
You would like this stuff. It was so fresh. It was like not even fishy tasting. I was so impressed. Okay, so cool. Michelle, good job. Congratulations. You got yourself 3rd place today. All right, so let's have a look for our 2nd place winner this week is Christine.
Christine.
Small. You've done very well once again, Christine. The only possible comment that we can make for improvement was in the vignetting in the dark lower left corner. Otherwise, you just hit it out of the park. I mean, everybody that would see this photo would want a Caesar, whether they like Clamato or not. Good stuff. Congratulations, Christine. You've got yourself 4 points towards the photo challenge. All right, and in 1st place this week, we've got... Boom! This one goes to Rachel. Rachel, good job. The clarity, the color, the feeling, the lighting, everything is just beautiful. Again, the only constructive criticism we can give is wrap that focus around that front strawberry. Shoot at a deeper depth of field when you're zoomed in all the way, and that'll help you exponentially.
Or try focus stacking. It's also an option.
Yeah,
but, as you said, this was handheld, so don't try focus stacking.
Hey,
terribly.
some of the greatest focus stackers in the world shoot everything handheld.
That's a terrifying thought.
Don Komarechka. I had to go there. Everybody take your shot. I had to. There it is. Focus stacks up to 70 photos, all shooting handheld.
I couldn't do it.
Keep in mind, when you're focus stacking, your focus is on manual and you rock back and forth the distance of the subject you're shooting. So if you're shooting a snowflake that is so small, you're only rocking back and forth by a minute amount. And just by doing that little bit of motion can make the huge difference. Obviously, the tart is much bigger. You'd be rocking back and forth much greater distance. It's much harder to do. But there you go.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of knowledge. Knowledge. That's for Nick. All right. Let's see. Have we missed anything here? No, I don't think so. I think we've got.
I believe we were going to give an honorable mention.
Well, we were, but I think that plan's changed with our little shift.
Right.
Unless you still want to do the. Yes, let's do that. Honorable mention.
If I recall correctly, the honorable mention was.
Yes.
This one.
Exactly. So, Jerry, we're going to give you a point for honorable mention because the story is there. It's beautiful. And hopefully we can see the, like, this is a green screen. Technically, you could just put in a background if you want to using green screen software. But I think that was the. What?
I realized something too. When we were talking briefly before the episode, I was talking about the compositing techniques that I'm going to be teaching in my class.
Yes.
One of them is called channel masking. This would actually hugely benefit from that because of the green channel. The highlight is actually coming through onto this tomato. The reflection is shown through on the tomato. So that if you were to do it that way and green screen this whole thing out, you'd actually be taking part of the tomato with you.
Huh. So your channel masking is the way to go.
Potentially actually not the way to go. It would actually ruin it now that I realize I'm doing my math the opposite direction. That was so fun thing to watch out for. Reflections will ruin it. So I threw that in there for nothing. I thought that would help, and I realized I was doing the math the other way around. That would channel masking is not what you want to do for this. By that exact math, channel masking and green screening are essentially the same thing. So this being a green screen with a reflection, you'd have to be very, very careful of that edge. And
you can always draw that back in, though.
Yes.
So, either way, it's a fun photo. Thank you very much for submitting it, and you've got yourself honorable mention. Good job. Okay, so we do have to give away our photo challenge for next week. It was something, and it's now become something different. Oh, look at me. I'm on your screen.
Yeah, it never lets me click off the screen sharing.
All right. So originally, we were going to issue the photo challenge album cover because it's kind of fun and it gets into compositing and so on. But you know what? We just did a whole show on edit. We've recently done. We had Blake on the show. Michael was on the show. We got into all these different softwares and we really talked about editing and editing and editing. But what we haven't done in a really long time is get naked. Your reaction is priceless. When I say get naked, I don't mean naked. I mean strip it down to the bare bones. One camera, one lens, shoot in JPEG, 0 editing, shooting in a 10-foot by 10-foot radius, and making 20 images that you're proud of. That's the photo challenge. It's the Naked Photography Challenge, 3rd time around. It's a lot of fun to do. I encourage everybody to overshoot. Try different things. One of the things I did for my first Naked Photography Challenge, I did it in the bathroom, which is why I made that comment earlier. I literally did free lensing. I have a 50 millimeter lens that I could reverse mount. And then I had actually did the free lensing where the lens is off the camera and I'm doing this for different effects. There's all kinds of great things you can do if you understand how your tool works. And this Naked Photography Challenge is going to open up some eyes. We're not going to be relying on editing in post. We're not going to be relying on RAW with its amazing dynamic range and all these other things. This is bare bones stuff. And Michael, this is going to throw you for a loop.
Yeah, this is a challenge I decided I'm going to take my own photos for it as well. And
we are all going to do it. Joe's doing it. I'm doing it. This is part of the rules.
You threw me off with your comment. When I read 10 by 10 earlier, I thought you meant doing everything in a square crop. You you want to lock me in a small room and do this challenge, that's going to be even better.
Yep, you've got to put yourself in it doesn't have to be inside. I'm going to do mine in the office right here. I'm just going to use this space right here. Pick your space, pick your concept, pick your lens, because you can only use one lens. You can use light. So if you have a flash, go right ahead. If you want to use flashlights, that's fine. But it has to be all achieved in camera.
Can the final images be black and white? Can I shoot it in black and white?
Absolutely. As long as it's in camera and there's no editing after the fact, it's fine. So that's the challenge, guys. Let's see here. Thanks so much, guys. Something I've never tried before, so it was fun. Congrats to all. That was Christine. Well done. Rachel says, oh, wow, I did not expect that. Thank you, guys. Very cool. You're very welcome. Is that class up on the site now, Brian? Michael's class. It is not quite up yet. It will be up shortly. We're working on the details. I'm going to ask Michael to send me an itinerary, not an itinerary, like an outline and some photos to represent what he'll be doing, and then I will put that up on the website.
Yeah, we are aiming for November 6th for the class, but I'm still putting together this project and making sure, because I'm going to be providing the images that we use for the editing, and I just did this shoot, so I'm still making sure that these images are going to be appropriate learning materials. So I'm doing a trial run through everything and planning out my curriculum for the day. And once that's all said and done, we'll have it up on the site ready for you guys.
Thank you, Michael. You did an excellent job tonight, man. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who watched. We have got quite a few viewers tonight, and that's excellent to see. Rachel says, you want 20 shots for the next challenge? I want 20 shots you're proud of. We don't have to analyze every single one of them on the show. What I would really hope for is for everybody to post their 20 photos as a group, as an album on the community in the weekly photo challenge. If you post the 20 shots as an album, that means that we can just cycle through them and, stick on one or two, but it's the whole. It's the story you're telling as a whole, without the aid of editing, without the aid of cropping, without the aid of playing around or manipulating that shot. I mean, it's even more than film, because in film, through editing or through developing your film, they could dodge and burn and do things. We're not doing that in this case. This is trying to keep it as straightforward as possible. All right. If anybody has any questions on the photo challenge in the future, please feel free to email us. You can email me, Brian at daytripperphoto.com. That's Brian with the Y-N at daytripperphoto.com. And if anybody has any questions for Michael, how can they email you, sir?
They can reach me at michael.lane.photo@gmail.com.
Fantastic. And we're going to leave you guys with a quote. This quote is from an amazing photographer who actually was killed on the battlefield at war as a photographer at war. His name is Robert Capa. Interesting story, amazing photographer with what he was doing. And it's ironic that he was killed by stepping on a landmine because his quote is, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. So if he was taking a picture of this landmine, he was close enough. Unfortunately, that's morbid. I'm sorry. That was just not right. But yes, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough, which kind of lends well to some of the conversation we had tonight.
Morbid humor would be, I guess it was too old for this to be a thing, but Morbid would be asking as if he was using a burst shutter.
Ooh, boom, boom. Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for watching one last time. Michael, anything to say before we say goodnight?
I think that's it for me.
All right. And, of course, if Phil were here, he would say something funny and witty, which I'm not. So I can't even.
I did it for him.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Michael filled in for him. Once again, you're jack of all trades tonight.
I filled for Phil.
Boom. Yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. We're going to say goodnight. Take care, everybody. See y'all next week.
See you.